How's everybody doing? Listen, I hope you're all well. It's the 3rd of October 2014 and it's kind of in the middle of the afternoon. It's after 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I wanted to talk about this business. The caption kind of says it all, you know, it's about suicide. And there's a couple of reasons I want to talk about, a couple of things happened in the recent past that brought it forward in my mind. I had it on a hard drive and I lost it, and then I got it again. And I've put a link to it here. And it's the first real serious, and it's only a small thing, but I suppose it's important to do these sort of things. See, you have to be really sensitive about these things because you can't be glib about them. I mean, the people who do take their own lives, these are out of families, and they're, you know, I mean, they're siblings of other people, and they're family members, and their sons and daughters and fathers and all that. So you have to be real careful about what you say and not insult people, because it is a very sensitive subject. I mean, I wouldn't like that to be visited in my family. I certainly wouldn't. Anyway, as I say, really what brought it about in my case, thinking about it, was two things. About 3 or 4 years ago, I had done about 150 of these videos at the time, and what happened was somebody asked me about it. I think it had happened inside their family, and they wanted to know what I thought about the whole thing. And it's, first of all, I want to say it's a very complex business. It's not straightforward. I've put a link to this report, as I say, this UCD report done by a professor up there. The only problem with it is it's one of the few in-depth surveys that they've done, but it's only over a small number of people. You know, it's 104 suicides, and I think that you need a bigger, but you can draw a certain analysis out of it, and the analysis to be drawn is what seems to be the case out of the following. Have a look at this, and you'll understand where I'm coming from. The analysis are that it's approximately 4 times as many young men do it as girls do it, and that's very logical if you think about it. Because women tend to be much more earthbound than men. They have to be, because they carry the species inside them. Do you know what I mean? So nature is very protective, generally speaking, of women. The other thing is that the society, they don't tell you in this report, but the society that we live in today for young men, it's certainly a very different type of society than the society I grew up in the north of Ireland when I was a young man. I never heard of anybody taking their life. I'm sure people did, I'm not saying they didn't, but I think it was a much smaller thing. You know, our whole culture, the social milieu that we operate in, essentially it's all based around drugs. And even in this report you'll see a large number of the people who took their own lives were actually getting psychiatric treatment, were getting mind-altering drugs legally given to them. But that's just one side of the card, as it were, because the other side of the card is we live in a society where there's fluoride in the, just think of all this, there's fluoride in the water. Okay? The doctors and psychiatrists legally give out mind-bending drugs to people. The side effects of these drugs are horrendous. I'm going to discuss that in a minute or two. And alongside that, we're ingesting food which is highly contaminated by pesticides and a huge amount of steroids in red meat. Not a word about any of that sort of stuff. And these are seriously mind-bending things. Steroids are seriously mind-bending drugs. Make people aggressive and violent towards other people and themselves. And so that's kind of on the legal element of it. And then you have the illegal element of it. And the illegal element of it is obviously the gangs, the drug pushers, and the people who sell this so-called cocaine and you know, street drugs like heroin and all the rest of it, and these various party drugs. I know nothing about these things, but I read about them. And then you have lots of other people who, as I say, take as part of their daily diet, they take growth hormones and steroids. They're in this bodybuilding stroke weightlifting fraternity. I mean, the whole thing's up the fucking left. The whole thing's crazy. So there's bound to be a big spin-off. And what brought this to mind was, it's the old bit, you're back to like what's your experience of. Quite recently, I was up on a christening in Donegal. There's a family of mine, a family member of mine getting christened, okay? Now, being the nature of the beast that the man was, whose child it was, he's an immediate relative of mine, no religion was involved. It was a naming ceremony. We planted a mountain ash up in Donegal, and hopefully the mountain ash will grow and be there for a long time, and the child was named, okay? There were about 60, 80 people at this do. It was fantastic do. I have to say that the people in Donegal, I love them. They're great people. I call it the republic within the republic, and that's what it's like. They're great people. They've been isolated and cut adrift out of the whole milieu of what we know as the republic in Ireland, I think anyway. They've been left to their own devices. But anyway, that's a different, I'm not going to go on about that. But they're very hospitable, and we had a wonderful day and a half up there. And on the evening of this naming, I got introduced to lots and lots and lots of people, and I met some fantastic people. Lots of drink was consumed, which you do at these things, and that's the rites of passage going through life. I had quite a few whiskies, because I wasn't driving anywhere, so I didn't care. I had quite a few whiskies, and we celebrated this child's naming, as it were, okay? And I met a very interesting man. The man was an ex-army man, ex-Irish army man, been in the army all his life from he was a boy. He's now retired, he was in his mid-50s. Lovely man, just interested in engineering, and that's all. That's what his hobby was, and I'm interested in that, to get talking to him, alright, about various aspects of it and all right. He's more interested in marine stuff. They all are up in that Donegal. That's their kind of tradition. Anyway, tell me a fascinating thing. Tell me that while we're on a tour of duty, to go into Africa. Now, the rotation, I didn't know this, but the way it works is there's a rotation of companies of troops, and like one goes out and then another goes out and then another, you know what I mean, they come back and all, kind of like a rotation goes on, right? And the whole rotation, I think, was between 250 and 300 men. And they were given a drug. The drug was called LARIAM, an anti-malarial drug, powerful drug. Now, I have a write up here on it. I'm going to put a link to you. But I just want you to listen to one of the side effects, because that's what he told me. He told me basically out of the 300 men, he didn't know all 300 men, he knew some of them, right? But out of the group that he knew, which he reckoned was about 120 men, 4 of them had attempted suicide and 2 of them had killed themselves. And he got upset. He knew one of the guys very well, and he got upset. The man was telling me this. He had no reason to tell me this. I'm just going to tell you this. LARIAM is the name of the drug. It has a generic name called mefloquine. Yeah. Anyway, it tells you here the contraindications. Where do you hear this one? Yes, you wouldn't believe this. Is like, I'm going to put this, you can have a look at this. Some people taking LARIAM have committed suicide. And then it qualifies it. It says it's not known if LARIAM was the reason for these suicides. You know, some people taking LARIAM have committed suicide. It's not known if LARIAM was the reason for these suicides. Boy, that's a double entendre, isn't it? That's the world we live in. Take this drug. It'll help you. You won't get bitten by flies, but you may commit suicide. Anyway, the man was telling me, this particular man was telling me, when he tried to get it out of his system as quickly as he could, that had all device methods for taking it and then they'd expel it and all the rest for trying to get it through their system as quickly as possible. Because he said the contraindication for him when he took it was he became very violent towards his wife and his family when he came home. Alright? It stayed in his system a long, long time. So all I'm saying to you is, you know, this is the problem with the whole business of suicide. We can't really get a great hand on it. We're only guessing a lot of it. But I think the way to view it is, if I had somebody who expressed that type of they were heading in that kind of direction, and we're talking, or somebody else said they had been talking to them about taking their own life, I would definitely find out what drugs they're been exposed to, whether it's alcohol, whether it's, you know, I'd get them all, I'd just try and cut out all whatever drugs they're exposed to. Because I have absolutely no doubt that this is as a result of serious depression brought on by taking drugs, some way, ingesting drugs or unnatural substances, mind-altering substances. Of that I have absolutely no doubt, that the people may have a chemical imbalance in the first place, and then it's been reinforced by what they're doing and what they're taking and what they're ingesting. And the final thing I want to say is, I want to talk about one of the social problems that young men have. They're all lied to. And I think a lot of them realise that. I think a lot of them realise that this whole system that we have, it's a complete lie. It's all based on a lie. They haven't got work for these young people. These young people are brought into the world. They've sold. They're told to borrow money. You know, the whole thing is just, it's completely negative. There's no purpose to the whole thing. Their lives. They see their lives as directionless. It's not even a business about a moral compass or anything. It's not even. There's no purpose to get up out of bed. Imagine you're a young man. I mean, I see them. I just see them. They're like lost souls. So anyway, have a look at that. Just think about the LARIAM thing. Think about the fact that, I tell you, if it were me, and that was my husband, or my son, and he'd taken that drug and he was dead, I tell you, I'd have a major case against the Irish state. Because the officer corps, the medical corps of the army inside Ireland know what they're doing. These are all ranking officers. These surgeons that are giving out these drugs. These are not fools. These are all ranks of commandant and captain and all that. These are well-educated men. They know what they're doing. They know the contraindications of these things. Yet they're giving them out to soldiers and selling them off the foreign parts. So anyway, that's the world we live in. It's a very difficult world. But that's what I would offer. I just would offer, try and get people to stop taking these medicines, these drugs. That's all. Because I am convinced, you read the statistics, over half the people who committed suicide were taking mind-altering drugs issued legally to them by psychiatrists and doctors. I mean, there's something seriously wrong there. So you go to see a doctor and you're depressed and you're a young man and it's a 50-50 case of whether or not you're going to kill yourself. That's what the story would seem to suggest. It's a crazy world. Anyway, listen, we're going to have to talk more about this. It's a subject that's ongoing, and this report, as I say, it's only 104 people. We need more comprehensive reports, but certainly at its core seems to be the ingestion of drugs, whether legally or illegally, and probably a combination of both. Listen, we'll talk more.